is not coming as expected faster enough.
Okay.
So try to optimize few areas in our front end so that you can actually increase the page load time little better.
Yeah.
So we, as a part of the discussion, we try to shift all of our image formats from PNG and JPG to WebP, which recently come up by Google. So that actually reduce a lot of network bandwidth which image takes to load. So that actually helped in some aspects. Also, uh, so we have been using SVGs for most of the icons and few animations in our project. So also rendering those as prints is also help us. So actually use SVG sprint. So bundling up all the SVGs used in the project and rendering it in the application. So that is one more thing. And also we try to minimize the unused JavaScript. We try to track down few unused packages in our application, or which can be replaced with some parent package. So we try to eliminate all the unused packages and reduce the unused JavaScript. So that actually drastically increases the performance of the website. That's one of the recent experiences.
Okay. So with that, Vamshi, how do you measure the impact of performance optimization on user experience? Let's say, if you have to explain that for a backend developer or someone who doesn't know. So how do you usually measure the impact? Like, do you have any certain metrics to?
So basically, one of the important thing to measure the performance of application is that how quickly a user is being getting to interact with the application. Like how quickly he can interact with the application, how fast our application is being loaded in his front, and how fast he is able to. There are multiple parts of application, but we actually focus on the main areas where user has to interact, right? For example, if you go on to Instagram or Facebook, so the post which you see upfront is what people interact with, and not the details of profile or site sections, but they mostly interact with the post, right? So every application has a user interactivity way, but at that point where we have to focus more on optimize that area to take less bandwidth and render it much faster.
So for that, let's say how faster the person, right, the user is actually able to interact with your UI. So do you have any, let's say, few stuff where these are the few
Tools.
points where that could help user have more, spend more time on the UI or on your page?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't understand.
Okay, so I was saying, let's say you said the impact can be measured of how faster the user can have an interaction with your page, right? So do you have any 2 to 3 main areas, like if you improve this or if you improve that, that will ensure the user to spend more time on it, or maybe just not jump from your website or from your page or something like that?
Yeah. So I can't actually exactly answer the question, but from engineering standpoint, I can mention two things.
Okay.
So there are few terminologies considering as performant website. So if we can go to, in general, every web browser have this tool in browsers called Lighthouse,
Okay.
where we use that to measure the performance of a website. So if you want, let's try it out on retro website and see how performant it is. If you want, and see, I can explain how exactly we can do it. Can you share me?
Sure. Can you like share the screen? Like now that you're also doing, we can just have a look at it.
Yeah, you can. I give me the permission so much.
Okay, yeah. Now can you do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see the screen, right?
Okay, yeah.
So most of the folks here are aware of these developer tools, right? You can go to the inspect and so browser typically has this lighthouse, which is basically measures the performance of a website. So these are the
Okay,
categories like performance, accessibility, best practices, SEO, and
okay.
progressiveness. So by default, it navigates through all the pages of the application, and they mainly focus on the main.
Mhm.
I mean, this URL. So you can go to the other URLs and perform the reports. But simply you can just click on this analyze page node. So it's actually loads the application and checks how fast
Hmm.
this content is being printed,
Hmm.
how much time the images are taking to load,
Hmm.
how fast a user can interact with the website. It measures all those things and gives us the report.
Okay. Okay. So what does it say? Has a page load time increases.
It's still alright.
It's in progress.
It's in,
Okay, so it's taking time to show the results, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
performance is 53. Okay.
it's highly accessible in the sense a user can access the website using multiple mediums, like he can use the mouse or he can use the keyboard, and he can access every inch of the website with the easily accessible every inch of the portion. So best practices, yeah, what I do. SEO wise, it's awesome, but performance we can see there's performance little degradation. We can see these are the metrics which it considered for performance optimization. First content paint matlab, the first contentful, the content which paints on the screen.
Hmm.
So time to interact with, if you can see, it's taking 4.6, which is considerably lesser. I mean, more to interact with. So usually it should be somewhere around 0.5 to
Hmm.
1.52 seconds is ideal. So speed index, largest contentful paint. So these are the metrics which it depends what. Usually these are the common metrics, 6 metrics, which performance tools will use to measure the performance of website. So it
Okay. Okay.
actually gives the diagnosis also. To,
So let's
so,
say what are the ideal stat for these? Let's say you said the time to interact is more, right? Like, what are the ideal stat for like a very good uh, uh, very good interactive, let's say a website or something. So what would be the ideal? So what could anyone aim for to have a best user experience or best performance optimization? Yeah.
so if we can see here, so it actually everything will be in the report itself. You can see what can be improved, what are the diagnostics of the application.
Mhm. And how do you think, okay, let's take, if you can, name any two and how you could improve, how we could improve the numbers from that and make it a little lesser so that people
Yeah.
don't have to wait for a fast loading time. Yeah.
So as I already mentioned, see these are the opportunities that they have mentioned. Like these are the backdrops which it felt like Recro failed in. I mean this
Hmm.
particular website. So properly size images. So it can actually improve 0.59 seconds. It can make it better.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, a server, yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm not sure which technology this website is built on, but it's recommending to use Next.js, where Next.js uh, will provide a functionality such as this next slash image, which while bundling the image, it will optimize the image that is being rendered. So that one thing, and I also mentioned about this WebPika format, right? So I see we are actually using PNG, JPEG, and these formats to render images. So WebP is something best of two worlds. So it allows both losslessness and lossy rendering. Some technical terms. So I mean, it supports what the best of both worlds, PNG, JPEG, and SVG. Supports that. So you can shift it to that format of images. And also I can see there are, as I mentioned, unused JavaScript is being rendered by calling the application. So if you can see, transfer size is 377.6 KB, which can potentially reduce to 294.3 KB. So there are few extensions. Oh, sorry. These extensions are mine, so don't worry about it. But there are some unused JavaScript I can see from Wipro also coming in functions. And these are some analytics tools which we used. You can check about this also.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah. So if you guys have to add anything, Rishabh or Varad or Devang, you can feel free to add anything to Vamshi's take. So Vamshi, just a follow-up question for that. So what are the common mistakes that developers make, or like usually companies make while they're trying to optimize performance, and how these can be avoided? So any major mistakes that you could point it out that usually people do it?
So usually people do it. So people has to have a design system beforehand. With design system, there's a few guidelines has to have before starting any product or a website to build upon. So I mean, it's easier to deviate. Even just a small for loop in a application can also badly affect the performance. So having a set of guidelines in place and someone to review your code, checking the guidelines and all, actually helps in performance. We can overall performance we can try to optimize it, but a code level of performance is something which cannot be optimized at deeper level.
Okay, right? And why do you think is that?
This is because it should be like what I can say. As I mentioned, there has to be some guidelines, or there has to be some style guide that has to be followed strictly. Like, if you can actually use filter and also map at the same position, but you have to we make sure for the particular use case what is ideal to use. So those are things has to be checked in before uh, going to production, or at least at the single PR level you have to check all those things. And also we have to keep in mind about the high level things, as I mentioned. So obviously tagging in multiple third party scripts in our application will obviously affect the performance of the website. As I mentioned, we are using tag manager here and Google Analytics. So we have to try to optimize it to the narrow it down the exact use case. For example, if we are using tag manager, we have to make sure that we are only using tag manager again. But if there is any way to use Facebook tag manager, or another Google Analytics tag manager, if you can see that we can achieve the same with the tag manager instead including another script from Google Analytics, we have to take care of those things also. And also, as I mentioned, these web formats, image formats, and specifically we can actually render images very simply in our application with just image tag. And also there is also an option in Next.js to use next/image tag from it. But the performance which gives what Next.js gives us is different from using the image tag. So these are the things which we have to think about even before starting the application. And once we get that in place, and for every PR or every feature development we do, we have to check at the code level and style level also. So currently at the production, when it goes to production, we can expect some decent product to be launched.
Okay, yeah. Well, that was really great, Vamshi, and I really I appreciate that you actually showed the Recro's website and how the accessibility and all, right? So, out of all the questions I asked, if you have to give like 2 to 3 key takeaways from your work on, performance optimization for bettering the user experience in 2, 3 points, what would that be? Just like a quick summary of what you've actually mentioned, 2 to 3 key takeaways. Yeah.
So, first of all, mm, as we see there, three important things are there. First thing is SEO. I was
Mm-hmm.
make I was considering about the public website, not any
Okay.
function websites. We consider as a public website. So SEO is one thing, and performance is one thing, and the next thing is accessibility and best practices.
Hmm.
So SEO matlab it has to be follow all the guidelines which are intact with Google crawlers. It has to give a facility of Google crawler with all the meta tags and details and all. We have to make sure uh, we follow all the specific guidelines that put forth that it helps the Google crawler to rank our website at a better index.
Hmm.
And second thing, as mentioned, performance as a thing. So we have
Yeah.
to see uh, is our website is better to have a server-side rendering or a static website generation. So that's also a design thing we have to take call before going to start the application. And
Yeah.
also we have to make sure that a website is accessible to all the users, like accessible method. It has to be highly accessible so that uh, any user can use it with any disability. So this basically that's the thing, the use case. Uh, yeah, I think.
Okay. That's pretty much. Well, I think you really narrow it down beautifully, and I think it's really important, right? So the few points that you said that when it comes to the SEOs and the accessibility and all, so most of the people do miss it, but I think there are few stuff that you can't actually get it perfect, right? Let's say accessibility is 98. Can anyone have it to 100%? Like, do you have any website that is usually having the accessibility like great performance optimization for user experience
I mean, actually, 98% is
is the
actually
highest.
pretty perfect. It
Okay.
depends upon the performance analyzer tool. Some may give you 98%, for example, Lighthouse given us 98. Some other tool may give us 100%. But
Hmm.
it
Oh,
varies. If I test it again, it can reduce by 2 points or it can increase by 2 points. It depends. But it's mainly majorly we have to consider the range. Is
yeah.
it the best range, or it falls under a range which needs improvement, or it's very bad? That's the range we have to consider, not the exact number.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yeah. Thank you so much, Vamshi. That was really great listening from your experience and the whole takeaways that you worked on. And we're very glad that we had you in the community meet, and I'll look forward for your presence in the more community meets. Yeah. Thank you
I,
so
I
much.
I have one question.
Yes.
At our project also we are measuring performance testing and all. So we are using JMeter where we are testing the front end and back end API calls and measuring the performance and all. Do you have any other tool where we can verify the existing performance metrics as well, whether we are doing in perfect testing or not?
So question to me.
My question is, we are using JMeter to test our front end and back end and checking the performance of the application. So
Okay.
we have some scripts run out there, and it is customized, total customized inputs for testing the performance. Just like you show one tool about measuring the front end
Yep.
UI to test out the performance. Can you suggest some other tools as well where we can test out the front end, back end parts as well instead of only front end?
No, actually, I'm not aware of tools which are test. I can test both of the application, but I can name few which you can test your performance on the backend as well. Those are not external tools, but if I'm not wrong, there is some tool called.
think Rishabh can also add, like, Rishabh, do you have any suggestions for what Devang is asking in tools that you could suggest him that could help him?
I'm more in favor of sort of a manual intervention here. The tools are great, but they don't really tell you where your website actually needs to improve if it's a user-focused website. Given they'll give you some standard items. For example, I can show you my website, Codation.io. It has almost all the hundreds in Lighthouse, right? But that doesn't tell the exact picture. It tells you an objective deal of what it is. And it's important. I'm not saying it's not important. Objectively, it's good. But what you actually need to know is which specific set of your code or your system is breaking down. That may be an API side issue, that could be a front-end side issue, that could be a specific component of your website that is actually making things slower, right?
Yes.
And it could be that you're rendering that when you don't even need to, right? So there are a lot of factors that come in. So I mean, I think data collection sources are better. For example, you can use Datadog to sort of log the items that you need to. So one of our applications have this layering where we have multiple microsites and we have multiple layers of code. For example, one is our shell, which is sort of a base structure for everything, where everything loads. It's like a single SPA, not single SPA, module federated host. And then we have a HTML layer. Then we have a sort of a auth layer, which is like our authentication system and all. So we log every step one by one. We initially create sort of in a broader range, we create charts out of it. And we figure out on average our shell layer is taking 1 second, our data layer is taking, HTML layer is taking 1.5 seconds and so. And that breakdowns actually tells me where the problem actually lies, or if there is even a problem. Because you can't expect every site to load in 200 milliseconds. We have dashboards that are supposed to load in 3 to 4 seconds, and they will load in 3 to 4 seconds. There is nothing wrong with that. So it's very dependent on your application itself. But I think if it's a standard website where it's like a public facing website, you can check out Codation.io right now. It has all full standard, like 100 and everything. There are a lot of techniques that I've implemented there to do that. For example, I'm loading only the first content that you have on your screen, and every image is loaded lazily. So unless you actually scroll to that image does not load, right? Stuff like that is important. So if it's a public facing website, you can have all hundreds. You can get your time down to I think it's somewhere down to 1 second or less. So you can do that. But if it's a dashboard, they are supposed to take 4 to 5 seconds, because there is a lot of data that they need to collect to actually fill up all the information. So that's okay as well.
So in that cases, so if you, for example, as Rishabh is mentioning, if your website is more data incentive, where something like dashboard, which it has to collect quite a few KBs and MBs of data, it's usually preferred to have a SSR in place of your SPA. So it's better to render your application using server-side rendering rather than just using SPA. So it obviously takes some time. And also, just to add few things here, as I mentioned, front-end you can use some Lighthouse or some other paid testing tools. They will be available. Obviously, you can just Google it. And backend, usually there are 2 levels of testing, I would say. I just remember the name. It's actually SonarQube, which will test your code at your application at code level. And usually we test our APIs in Postman, where we write our automation scripts in it, where it will check all flow of our APIs, and it will also check the load balancing, etc. So that's usually we do. Not aware of any paid tools like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any more questions, Devang?
No, I'm good till now.
Okay, thank you so much. And yeah, Rishabh, so adding to that, what you've said, so how do you balance the need of performance optimization with other development priorities, let's say, such as features or the bug fixes and everything. So does that
Yeah.
count under that, or how does it hamper the performance optimization?
I think we've transitioned from UX to performance at this point.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll talk about that. Okay, so performance is, I'll say that's a habit that you follow, that you may build while you're coding.
Mhm.
Don't try to solve problems that don't exist, which basically means if there is no issue in performance, don't try to solve it.
Mhm.
Every performance optimization comes with a cost itself, right? So that's super important. For example, if my site is loading in let's say 1 second, right, a standard site, that's not a lot of time. So that's okay, right? Unless your users are turning away from you, right? And which you'll see in your analytics. You have to have your analytics. It makes no sense to just try to get it in 200 milliseconds. No one cares.
Mhm.
It makes no difference, right? That's super important. And I mean, if the problem exists, for example, your customers are complaining that this takes 10 seconds to load, I have to wait so much. Yeah, try to figure out a solution for that. But if it doesn't, then you have, I mean, yeah, it's not needed. Focus on your bug fixing, focus on new feature development, focus on whatever comes next. Performance is a highly, I don't know, you can make it worse. It's highly contagious. Instead of making it better, you can make it worse if you don't know what you're doing, right? So I'll give you an example from React. I hope everyone is aware and have used it at some place. Given that Vamsi was also giving Next.js examples. If you just keep, there are hooks called use memo and use callback. If you keep implementing those hooks on every single function, yeah, performance is actually gonna go down instead of instead of making it better. They're supposed to improve your performance, but it can go bad if you use it wrongly, because again, I'll repeat the same line, but every performance optimization comes with a cost. If your benefit is not outweighing your cost, you just made it worse. Right. So it's so yeah, don't just throw everything that you know about performance to every application. Every application has their own needs. Sometimes you do need to figure out about those hooks, or sometimes you don't even care. So that's important. Now, to actually resolve these issues, right? This is all about me talking about not actually resolving anything, but let's say you have to. Then the very first step would be to figure out where the lag actually happens. So it's not about if someone tells you, I need to improve. So if someone comes to me and say, I need to improve my website's performance, or so I need to improve my app's performance, the first question would be, where is the problem? It's not like I can do it.
Yeah.
I need more context for that. I need to know where the problem lies. It could be your backend is lagging. It could be your front end is lagging. It could be you have a bad code. It could be that it's taking the time it's supposed to, but we need an optimization on top of that. We need to make it faster, which is not physically possible. So we maybe need to implement caching of some sorts. We maybe gonna throttle, rate limit stuff, and basically implement very minor 1 second caching, not even huge if you have millions of customers who are fetching the same data over and over. Maybe your application is the entire client side, and we need to make it partially server side or fully server side to do that. So a context is very important. So first, pull up that context, see where things are breaking. If so let's say your front end is taking 200 milliseconds, but your backend is taking 500. Then there is no point optimizing your front end.
Yeah.
And a front end engineer has no place there to optimize it. You need to bring in a backend engineer to optimize it. Or maybe backend database is taking 600 milliseconds, right? But your backend servers itself, Python or whatever you're using, is not taking that much time. Then you need to optimize your queries. Now further, let's say queries are okay as well. So there is nothing wrong with front end. There is nothing wrong with back end. There is nothing wrong with database. Now what do? You implement a caching layer. So you make sure you don't call your database multiple times, or you maybe introduce a clustering system where you add more than one database and you call them parallelly, right? So there are multiple places for these things to happen. So there is, I'm sorry, I'm not giving a single answer, but there is no single answer to this. It's highly dependent on context, but I've given you the steps to follow to figure out where the context is, and then you follow the steps.
Yeah.
And with front end, it's a lot of times it's very generic. Optimizations are super generic. Mostly you do memorization. You make sure your application is not rendering where it's not supposed to. In React's context, it's rendering. It's I mean, I think it's in every framework context, it's rendering, just called different ways. But it's like if a part is not changed, don't make it, don't create it again, right? So make sure your app is not re-rendering multiple times, making sure your API calls are not happening multiple times, making sure you are canceling your API calls which are obsolete. If someone clicks on a page, an API call happens, but he goes away, making sure you're canceling the previous API request because they are not usable anymore, and they will create unexpected bugs as well. Because a lot of times what's going to happen is if you have a transitioning going between your pages and your API call completes in that transition, you are going to be moved back to the original page while your URL has changed already. So things like these will happen if you don't implement correct patterns. And that's coming back to my original first sentence. Performance is a habit. It's about making the right decisions at the right time, and you build it over time. It's not like you handle performance at the end. That's not going to happen. You're going to break everything, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would like to add one more thing to Rishabh's answer. There is something known as on advanced level, horizontal scaling and vertical scaling.
Yeah.
So whenever a performance issue is there, people think about these two things. So they say either increase the number of instances or increase the server hardware.
Correct.
We recently had the similar issue where we had a small server and a great number of instances has been created. But at the very first, it was concluded like it's a data issue, clear out your database. So that's not a generic solution. First thing is to find out, and step by step, as Rishabh mentioned, needs to be find out that exactly what component level the things are there. So that is I have observed until now as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And a lot of times these solutions are not even the great ones. So just add a new server.
Yes.
You add a lot of complexity with that. So sometimes it's not even worth it.
Yes.
So any advices or key takeaways, Rishabh, from your side, now that you actually worked, on a lot of projects and with a lot of companies already in terms of the performance optimization or having the better UI for the website that you're designing for your company or for your users. So what would be 2 to 3 key takeaways that you could advise them to keep in mind so that they can get the best work in the end of the day?
Okay. I think this is going to be super generic, so don't implement it in every single case. Okay. But making sure you are not over optimizing things, that's going to make things slower. And that's, I think, true for every case, regardless of anything. But if you can, make sure you don't. Okay, Dikshit, you are distracting me a lot.
Sorry for that, brother. Like I was trying something, and okay, I can turn that off. Okay.
No worries. I'm just making a joke. No worries.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Feel free. Okay, so I think don't over optimize. That's the first point. Second is, if you can, don't render things that are not necessary. For example, if it's possible, lazy load every component that you can, except for your first load. You'll have to figure out for your application what that is. That's super important. Server side is good, but make sure you're not over. I mean, server side has its own cost. So you have to make sure it's a balance between your actual product cost versus couple of milliseconds, or let's say hundreds of milliseconds, right? So you have to weigh that in. If it's a conversion website, it's a sale website, go for it. If it's like a standard public facing website where user just write a blog or something, use a static hosting, right? So things like these, right technology for right website is super important. For a blog website, do not go with React. For example, I mean, you can do it. There is no problem in doing it. But now you're talking about making it SEO friendly. No, then use Next.js, use Remix. There are a lot of React variants that you can use, right? If you keep on, and it's not like you can't do it. Of course you can, but you're going to put in so much more work than it's needed.
Yeah.
Right? That's super important. Like performance is not just on a website, it's yours as well. Right? So if you can spend 10 hours to do something, spend 10 hours. Don't try to spend 20. All right, I'd say spend 2 and get it done.
Yeah. I think that applies to every part of the work, irrespective of what you're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Like we overestimate, and I mean I think we underestimate the time and just like maybe delay it more and more how much usually takes. So yeah.
I think in my experience, I think we estimated correctly, or actually we overestimate the time. Like if it's gonna take, let's say 1 day, we are gonna say it's gonna take 2 days, and then we procrastinate till the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now we are like, yaar, time kam diya tha maine. No, dude, you procrastinated for 1.5 days.
Yeah.
So get it done in your first 4 hours if you can, and then procrastinate for next 1.5 days.
Yeah.
Don't submit it. It's okay. I think that's a better approach.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Rishabh. And the points that you actually told was really helpful. And I think that really applies to the people with irrespective of what experience they're having, right?
Yeah.
And that would really help us to like exceed more as a developer and then maybe have something more in your plate and get things done in a better way. Yeah. So, yeah, hi, Devang.
Hello.
Yeah. So before we dwell into the topic, I would want to understand what are your experience on the project that helped you to optimize on performance or, on a user experience or to have a better user experience. Like, did you work on any projects, or if you did, what were your key takeaways that helped you learn and, deliver something better than what you did before? So what would that be?
Okay. Before moving that, I may forget about the one question I would like to ask is
Yeah.
about logging is going to impact performance or not. So I will ask this question later portion. If I forget, please remind me. Sorry, Zoom. Okay. So from the performance point of view, many projects I have to deal with backend, front end on database side mostly because I was working with the startups. So we don't have much of the cloud or online server systems available. We were testing locally and delivering to clients, and they were testing out and they were mentioning about issues and all. But from the learnings I have, and from observations also, I have optimized 1 or 2 projects where we were doing lawn-based system was like that, and they were taking out the report of like weekly and yearly base. And the whole query to take out those records was having so much of calculations, and was taking around like 15 seconds or more than that part. It needs to be have that. It cannot be separate into multiple queries and all. So after understanding the data and that particular system, it was an ERP system. So it has its own calculations and implementations of the SQL part. So first optimization we did on the query side, that was taking a lot of time. Next we did on the backend side because there was very less front end included was there. So we optimized these 2 components and reduced from 15 seconds to like 2.5 seconds. Apart from this, there was another server monitoring application I have worked, just like Datadog or Server Density or Nagios. It was an in-house project, and there also server data are gathering every seconds and sending to backend database, and then from mobile we need to observe this and get it out.
Yeah.
There also for with backend PHP code and database queries, we reduced it from 1.8 second to around 0.8 seconds. So observation are pretty much similar to what Rishabh suggested, and I implemented in the similar ways. Individually measured timers on all the sections, and then I literally had 40-page where I have written down the timers of single process of loading the UI, requesting, getting the response, and setting the data into this and all. From that part also, I have almost the pretty same steps that Rishabh suggested I have implemented, and learnings from those projects are the same. That first you implement the part of code, and then you bring out that what part needs to be optimized, and then see the difference. With the data, you cannot optimize the performance. That's also one of the things that need to be taken care, because recently we had a similar issue as well.
Yeah.
So these are the things I have observed in my project. Now I'm working on little more advanced levels instead of only, because we are having cloud services and other things. But yes, we are resolving the performance issue pretty similar way. And from that, I have one question that I asked in beginning itself, that while measuring this performance things and all, I have put lots of logs to check out where the issue is. So I have observed that it is also increasing the time that actually needs to be optimized, because it needs to calculate some additional things and all. So distributed logs is a useful thing. That's a question compared to what traditional logs we are putting to check out the performance, and how exactly the performance metrics we can take out if we are putting logs or we are measuring by some other means.
Okay.
Rishabh, are you like talking? Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add this. That just from the Devang's points overall, you have to understand that performance is a lot of times just a lot of data to compile. Without that data, I don't think you can actually figure out what the optimizations that you need to do. Like he said, he wrote 40 pages. That's fairly normal. And a lot of times you have to do that at a higher level to figure out where the problems are. I'm not saying it's always going to be 40 pages. A lot of times it's a lot less. But yeah, there are numbers involved. And I don't know if I can answer the logging part completely. But a generic answer is yes, logging does increase your overall time. Depending on how you're logging, it could be a negligible time or it could be a lot. So a lot of times, like what I used to do or still do is I do log it in memory, right? But when it's time to make a network request to a distributed system, that's going to happen when system is idle. So a lot of times that is almost negligible impact, and you're always going to have a delta in your performance, which basically means you're always going to have some slight fluctuation. So it's not like if it's saying 2 seconds every time, it's going to be 2 seconds. Sometimes it could be 2.1 or sometimes it could be 1.9. So that small delta is always going to be there. It could be because of logging. It could be because of slow network. It could be a number of things, right? So yeah, logging is going to make it slower. But again, there are ways you can just use your idle time of your system to sort of make that happen. But even in Node.js or even in like a backend language, don't write logs should not be like don't write logs directly to file system, directly to any file. That's a super expensive operation. That IO operation is I think one of the most expensive operations in overall this life cycle. Yes. So I guess you could batch the logs. That's one way to do it, but still that's not very effective. I mean, it is effective in terms of doing it raw, but you could make it better by essentially not writing it to file system and you waiting for your idle time and do a network request to a distributed system, which does this writing to files and everything separately altogether. Given that you are just taking off that performance load from your base system. I think that's what I would say. I don't know if that answers your question completely, but that's what my experience and knowledge says at this point.
No, I agree to that point as well. And my question, why like I'm still looking for it is because I have felt some of the things that without logs, it is difficult to replicate some scenarios as well. So logs is pretty much required thing in some cases, but again, it is a cost.
Yeah, it's a cost. And also, I never said don't write logs. That's not my statement. I'm saying write logs. Just don't commit it till your system is idle. I mean, when your system has free time, commit it in that space because you will not impact your performance in that extent.
Right. I think that can help a lot.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions, Devang?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. So yeah, hi Dikshit. So today actually we're discussing on the impact of performance optimization on user experience. And I just want to know what are some specific performance optimization techniques that you usually use on your projects or the companies that you work for and the teams that you worked with to improve the user experience. What's your take on it?
So as Rishabh has told, and I was listening like very much carefully, like all of the things, and I think so I'm audible to everyone. Like, am I right?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah, and so coming to the first point, like Rishabh, you told like very much correct. Like sometimes like performance optimization would be giving you a cost that you need to bear. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is a time consuming process. Like if someone is writing some kind of code and then you are optimizing that thing to reduce some kind of load onto your system, it would be a costing thing. And that has happened with me as well. Like right now into our application, for an example, like we were having a database call like more than 5 times for a single same data. Okay. And I was the one who optimized like reduce those call to 2, so that like at the higher level, like when we go for like say 10,000 concurrency, so
Correct.
it won't be like 70,000 requests, it would be like only 20,000 requests, so which would be much more good enough. So while doing that, I found out like lots of other things which I need to work out and find out like solutions. So that is like a cost which I have to bear. But when we went for ideal checkup, like it was going the same way. It was giving the same maximum limit turned out, and it was giving trouble to the pods. So again, we have to do like lots of debugging and solving like all of those stuff.
Yeah, that's a pain to debug.
Yeah, that's a lot of pain, because into our application, like we are having multiple calls which are going from one direction to another direction till it comes back to the same point. So we are having like 14 different applications running, and you have to like see for all of the things, and you have to find out like the solutions. Now coming to the another point that you made for the React optimization. I would say like in pure React, like if you write your application in pure React and define everything onto a simpler term using like the basic component, go with like say use memo or say use callback or say any kind of lazy loading, and you make your structure in such a way that when your application comes into process, it won't be consuming like the ideal way of data consumption. It would be doing like a step-by-step format, and it would be much more easier for handling. So that would be helping our application. And instead of like what we do, like we go and find like, okay, at this point, this would be helping me and I would be going for this thing. Please don't, I would be suggesting like, don't go by that way. Just take a step back, look like if you can pass the props from that point to the next point, and it would be like much more easy to maintain your component, because it won't be re-rendering like for the whole time.
Correct.
So that is like my points in optimization. And in the past, like I worked with like people who are very much committed to optimization, saying like they have written the React code in such a way Like it is like pure use of React. No need for writing any kind of extra hooks or anything. Create templates, pass the data from the props, and that's it.
Yeah,
Your component
that's
would
it.
be rendering. No need for any kind of extra state management system as well. Like we were not using any kind of state management system.
I'm so happy to hear that.
I was surprised when I started working with them. Like they told like we don't need any kind of state management system. We would be handling all of the things from the backend. You would be getting the data, just give an API call, and this is the data. That's it. And you would be passing the same data all over through the components and the functional chain. That's it. So that's like much more simpler, and you can write like all of the components on a simpler note and move around. So that is like an optimization way, but now people think like, okay, we need to implement lazy loading. We need to reduce like get 100% onto this one. We need to do 100% on that one. No need.
Not needed.
Yeah, because if you are investing that amount of time into that point, you would be having like lots of trouble into other things as well. You would be breaking few other things. Instead of going by that way, do it in a simpler note, and you would be able to do like lots of things. So that is how
Correct.
I would be taking for optimization.
Correct.
When I handled the very first project of React, I had the same mistake of using too much of states and too much of use effect components to get the data and maintain 7 scenarios in one application, one page itself. So that's the mistake I had happened in my first project.
Yeah. And I want to add this, right? A lot of people are scared of using context at a global level because they think it's going to re-render your entire application. Dude, so what? Your application is not big enough.
Yeah, but I'm having an application like I would be having like we would be starting an application. It's like completely role-based application. Yesterday I was having a conversation with my architect. He told me like how would we do the process. I told like we can do whatever you say, or we can do on a other node. Say we had a discussion and we came up with like say, a different solution, like creating a simple
Right.
template which would be running for all of the props, saying like if I want to pass some kind of first API was being hit for the first role,
Correct.
be taking that template and moving along with the same way, and for the second one taking the same template, working along. That's it. Like why are you giving like complex thing to that one?
Yeah. I had this sort of similar problem yesterday. I was talking to one of my peers, and I had to implement. So in a microsite, in a package, actually, I asked him not to convert it to a microsite, not use Federation. Let's use it as a package. But in a package, so he was like, let's give it a ref, and then we'll render it anywhere we want. It was a button that needs to be rendered. I was like,
why?
make a button there, import it, render it anywhere you want.
Yes, it's a common component. Like create a common component, like
Yes.
whatever you require.
I was like, why do you want to give it a ref? Because I want to render it anywhere I want. Do that. There is no need of ref. There is no need of such complexity over there. He wants to use a ref, then a portal, then an all. Why? I know
Because
you understand. You know
yeah.
what portals are, but they are not needed.
If there is no need, then why are you creating? So
Yeah.
I was creating like a model, and that model would be having like the same model would be used for 3 different points. There would be invoice, there would be creation, and there would be modification. For creation and modification, something would be getting deferred, and invoice would be only for the video, like viewing, like you would be able to view all of the things. So I created a model in such a way that like I have to just pass single props, and all of the things would be coming like on a simple way. No need for doing like any kind of states or anything. Like on a single call, if the model has been called for say create, you would be passing the details and then move ahead. That's it.
I am knowing one person having a great number of experience, and he is really reinventing the wheel when you guys have benefit of using atomic designs. Literally using, he has implemented atomic designs and he is rewriting the same code because he want to put same thing but doesn't want to pass one thing dynamically. He literally duplicated files and put the computer and then was saying that APIs are breaking here. APIs are breaking here.
So
And the cost of it is so huge. Then if one thing breaks, you'll have to figure out
figure out
if
like,
it breaks everywhere. You can't fix it once.
but if say if my component is breaking, say I have created a create component, okay, which
Yeah.
is a simple model, and in that like lots of fields are there, and I'm getting a component which has been broken. I'm having a rendering with an if condition. I'm having a break at a certain component at a child
Right.
level. So what would I do? If I want to debug, I would be first debugging like, okay, I would be stopping my create. Okay, am I getting an error? No, get inside that one
Yeah.
and stop like on the step way, and you would be able to find out like, okay, this is the component where it is breaking. I need to fix this one. That's it.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
The
Just
simple way is like I got to learn from the project which I told, like it was like way complex thing. Like we were having a common template which was passing like data in a tremendous way, and there were like charts and lots of things were coming. Only just pass few props and you get the complete thing.
just to resolve this problem, my company, like one of my clients, has a lot of dashboards, like 10 to 15 dashboards that we need to build in next 3 months. So there are a lot of similar charts. I will like my entire team is like, yeah, we'll build charts separately. Like, guys, get the data done. I'll build your chart library in 1 week. Use that across.
Yeah.
I don't want you to make like import recharts everywhere and make your own additions everywhere.
Yeah.
Because I understand the design is this right now, but you don't know the client. I know the design's gonna change like the next week when this product is getting launched.
Yeah.
They're gonna make some change, and now you're gonna spend 50 hours fixing every chart component out there.
Instead
Why
of
do you
doing
want
like
to do that?
just create a single component that you would be doing the changes. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And use that across.
Yeah. So I did the same thing. I told my teammates like, you have to do this kind of similar way. Like we would be having like say I'm having two things like primary primary text and a secondary text.
Yeah.
So I created a simple a typographic saying like a header, okay, and in that header I passed like primary and secondary, and I gave a props. So if I need to change like those things,
that's super simple.
that's it. Simple thing. Just go and change it over there.
Yeah, and you can take these examples from libraries themselves and implement on your own if you have a different design system, right? So there are typography components and they do exactly this.
Yeah.
So you take inspiration from them, and if you want to, you build your own components on top of them, right?
It's much more easier.
Yeah, they're doing it for like 10, 20 years. They know what they're doing. At least listen to their like what they're saying.
Yeah.
You remember Dishit bhai, the Power BI requirement from a great client?
Yeah. So I was the one who was like literally banging my head at that point. Like I had to do something. They told me like create the complete website. We would be giving you the Power BI complete diagrams and design and all of the things. Okay, Power BI would be the main thing which would be coming, and you would be getting like all of the graphs and all of the details. I told like it's okay, it's fine for me. Just give me, provide me, and I implemented like all of the charts and all of the things where they wanted. I placed that. Okay, when they started with the testing, okay, on the initial phase, it was taking like more than 30 or 45 seconds to load like all of the stuff.
It's Power BI for you.
Yeah. So I told like, he told like, okay, the team told directly jumped to me, why it is taking like this much amount of time. It's React, it should be rendering fast. I told my React components are rendering within microseconds. You can check the spectra. Okay, now coming to your thing. The things which are breaking is coming from Power BI. You need to check that. Instead,
Power BI is huge.
Instead, you move like all of the things because like it comes from iframe and like you have to go for implementation, those things. I had to like remove all of those stuff and let me create like all of the this kind of stuff with basic. Yeah, it's much more simpler.
Exactly.
They were like not able to give like the simple things. Now the same thing is happening.
Actually, I think people are scared. I'm sorry, Hafsa, we are going a little off topic.
No worries. As long as the discussions are going effortlessly, that's completely fine. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So I just wanted to bring this point out. A lot of times clients or like people on a higher level, they think that Power BI or Tableau applications like these are gonna be easier to edit in a longer run, which is absolutely incorrect.
Yeah.
It's gonna be even harder to edit over time. Plus, they don't understand because they see a visual UI where they can build stuff. And that visual UI is, I think, a lot harder than our coding itself.
Yeah. So if you want to implement like those things into your React application, you would be having only an iframe to implement.
Yeah. You can't make a lot of changes.
Yeah. And like if you want to go for like any kind of changes onto a deeper level, you won't be able to have like anything.
Yeah. And I think we could give them the features that they want, the basic features of editing. Let's say, what do they even want to do? They want to edit their labels, they want to edit their ledgers, they want to edit data. You can do that in a single form, in a split second. It's that simple. You can build a form to do that. And actually, we are implementing the same thing. My API dev was like, we wanted to give you a title from backend. Will you be able to accommodate it? Yes. Like, why is that even a question?
The simple thing.
And I'm like, dude, do one thing. Give me a type of chart from the backend itself, so you can control everything there.
Yeah.
I don't care if you are not making a UI, like we are making not a backend UI for that. It's okay. Keep it in system. Send me like it's a line chart. I'll accommodate my component to handle all the charts. Whatever, I don't really care. Send me the correct data. Send me the chart. I'll be able to do that, right? And I've built my components based on that.
So it would be like much more easier for them. Like
so just control it from there. I don't want to work on these charts multiple times.
So
I have seen one requirement, literally performance issue. As you mentioning that Power BI and Tableau, it's about like a simple output as a part of POC. They are perfect applications.
Yeah, agreed.
As a part of like advanced data, you want a filter and whole operation kind of thing. It's a difficult one. So similarly, I was working in one of the ERP system known as Odoo, where less UI changes were there in version 8 and more backend work was there. At that time, I have seen a project where a client has a requirement that different components are in a different menu, and you can get the data and reporting from that. But no, I want in single page, even though the page is taking a lot of scrolling, I don't mind. He literally took 10 lakhs of record in single page from different components. And in Python, we have tool PyLint, which is scoring out of 10 for your performance and how you're measuring how much your coding guidelines you have followed, right? So 0 to 10, it is giving ranking. Can you guys imagine what will be the score?
I don't know. 4?
It is minus 22.
Oh,
out of 10.
Nice.
That single page, literally. So sometimes it's a part of requirement as well, where performance issue, if you are not taking the requirements or not updating the requirements in such a way, okay, doesn't matter how much we optimize on backend code or front end side, performance issues can be overlooked in requirement parts as well. So that's also we need to take care.
Yeah, true. I remember one story from this. I'm not gonna go into it right now. We already spent a lot of Hafsa's time. But maybe next time. Hafsa's heard of it, one of my client stories before. But maybe next time I'll tell you a super crazy performance-based issue that my client wanted to happen, basically. In a very small manner, it's like we had to process a 10 MB file. Normally you process it on backend. He wanted me to process it on front end.
It is crazy. No need to, I would say, like, don't try to bang your head also.
No, I've done it. It's been 5-6 years that I've done it. And I've done it in a way so application doesn't crash and all that. But that's a crazy story to actually do that. So I'll share that maybe next time. Hafsa's heard of it though.
Yeah. So I think we did discuss a lot, even in the topic of today's discussion, and also beyond this. And I would not want to continue more than like 1 hour, because the the attention span and interest
Yeah.
literally drops down after a point, right? And I think we did have very amazing pointers from Rishabh and Dikshit, Devang, and I think we had Vamshi on board for a while. And Tarun is also here, but I would just want to know if you guys have any questions at the end, because we can wrap it up because we're already a lot ahead of time. And we can have the same topic for the next week if the discussions are going a little longer, and if you want to discuss in a deeper level, we can have it again. But let me know what topic that you want to discuss for the next community meetup, and I'll make sure that I'll get that into the discussion. So before ending the session, Tarun or Tejas, do you have any questions, or do you want to say anything regarding this topic?
No, I'm sorry, I joined late, but yeah, maybe I'll join on time next time.
Yeah, please. That would be great. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, clean code and optimization is a bigger part, and we can discuss more and more and not. I just missed the part the Rishabh discussed with us. We can continue it with another session. I have lots of doubt with my experience.
Yeah, no worries. Just let me know what topic you want to discuss, Tarun, and if you're not a
It's
part
just
of Discord,
about optimizations and clean coding. Just I done in my previous experience and projects.
Put them in the
That's all.
group as well. You can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us know what topic that you want us to discuss at the next community meet, and I'll be more than happy to have these fruitful discussions where you guys are sharing your own experiences, and then the conversation just goes effortlessly, right? So thank you so much again, Rishabh, Dikshit, Devang, Tarun, and everyone who joined.
Yeah.
And have a very great weekend, guys. Thank you for joining in on weekend. I'm very glad that we had a discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much, and have a great
Yeah.
weekend.
Small
Thank
thing
you.
only.
Hafsa, I have one thing to say.
Yeah, please, Rishabh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just this that we transitioned. Today's topic was actually UX, but we transitioned completely to performance, and we did not discuss whatsoever about UX.
Yeah. I think we can have the specific topic about the UX in the next upcoming thing.
Because I think
and then we can also take up the questions prior from the community, and then we can discuss the questions also. That would be more interesting.
Correct. Because it's super important to understand the UX and performance are two separate things.
Yeah.
They are interlinked for sure, but they are different things. So it's not like if you improve performance, you're improving UX as well. That's not how it works.
Yes. So we'll do one thing. We'll now that we already know the topic for the next week, which is going to be around UX, we'll run a poll in the community and see what community members have to ask. And if any one of you guys want to lead the session, it would be great. And if you could like talk more.
Did I lose Hafsa or
Yes.
everyone?
I'm also losing the same thing.
Yeah, I think my network gone.
No, it's from
Hafsa side, I think.
Yeah, it's from Hafsa's side.
Yeah.
Okay. Meanwhile, Dikshit bhai
You guys
reminding one of the closer friend, Raj.
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
No, Hafsa, we really can't.
No.
Okay, so we'll stop the discussion, guys, and thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Hello.
I'll call you separately, Dikshit bhai.